The morning had started like any other for Sergeant Jake Mallory, or at least it should have. He was curled up on the worn couch in his small apartment, nursing a hangover that felt like a small, persistent war inside his skull. The world spun with every blink, his mouth tasted like burned rubber, and the faint buzz of his phone felt like a jackhammer in his skull. Coffee was optional today, but Jake knew it was mandatory if he had any hope of surviving the day. He groaned, rolled over, and reached for the half-empty bottle of water on the table, spilling a bit of it on his uniform from last night's duty. Jake's peace was interrupted by a sudden, deafening alarm that shattered the thin walls of his apartment. Lights flashed red, warning sirens screamed in rhythm with some government code he didn't care to memorize, and a robotic voice bellowed. All personnel report immediately to Emergency Command Center. That does not include my liver, apparently. He stumbled toward the door, tripping over a stray combat boot, cursing under his breath. Somehow, he managed to make it down the stairs without breaking anything vital, though he felt like a man who had survived a minor earthquake with just a headache as a souvenir. Outside, the city looked normal, calm even, which made the blaring sirens feel absurdly dramatic. People hurried in panic, their faces pale, their eyes wide. News broadcasts played on screens mounted on buildings, repeating the same terrifying message. An unidentified spacecraft of massive size has entered Earth's orbit, a reporter said, voice trembling. Preliminary scans indicate the presence of a highly advanced alien species. Their mission and intentions are unknown. Military authorities urge everyone to remain calm but vigilant. Let me just march in with a hangover and see how calm I feel. He pinched the bridge of his nose. Why do I always get called when things go crazy? It was unlike anything Jake had ever seen. A sleek metallic vessel, pulsing with faint green light and clearly not built by anything human. Military personnel and scientists ran about, shouting orders, waving data pads, and pointing at displays. Everyone looked tense, exhausted, and terrified. At the center of it all was General Harlan, a stern man in his 60s with an expression permanently etched in a scowl. He waved Jake over, ignoring his groaning and obvious state of disarray. "Mallory, you're here," the general said, voice clipped. "Good, we need someone on the ground, someone who can improvise, someone human. And maybe not hungover enough to hallucinate aliens. The aliens are sending their strongest warrior. Your mission is to survive, report back, and if possible, buy us some time. Now move." Every button, switch, and lever seemed to mock him. As he approached the deployment area, the alien ship descended into the atmosphere. The ground trembled with its landing, dust and debris rising in swirling clouds around it. Its shape was both beautiful and terrifying, a perfect blend of smooth curves and jagged edges, pulsing with an eerie green light. A hum resonated through the ground, deep and rhythmic, as though the ship itself had a heartbeat. People froze. Soldiers raised their weapons, scientists whispered frantic calculations, and Jake stumbled forward, still rubbing his head, muttering, Yeah, totally normal morning. Just walking into an alien invasion hungover. No big deal." The alien warrior moved with a grace that seemed effortless, each step deliberate, each motion perfectly measured. It raised one arm, and a resonating pulse of energy knocked several people off their feet. Jake ducked instinctively, a mixture of fear and habit. He could feel the power radiating from this creature, an aura that screamed domination. The alien's voice boomed not through sound but somehow inside everyone's heads. "Humans, you have been observed. You are insignificant. Submit or be destroyed." "Insignificant, huh?" he muttered, mostly to himself. "I don't even remember my own name sometimes, but yeah, okay, sure, insignificant." Jake, still groaning, suddenly realized he had been pushed forward by the crowd. He didn't know if it was bravery, stupidity, or just sheer luck, but he found himself standing closer to the alien than anyone else. The alien noticed him, tilting its head as if examining a curious insect. "Human," the warrior said, its voice echoing again inside minds. "You are chosen." Perhaps it had expected more fear, more logic, more submission. But this human, this messy, unprepared, groaning creature was still standing. Jake's training kicked in, though sluggishly. He raised his rifle, took a shaky stance, and tried to look like he had a plan. In reality, his plan was simple: survive, improvise, and hope something lucky happened. The alien advanced, each step causing the ground to tremble. Jake felt the weight of the planet's eyes on him, felt the ridiculous absurdity of this situation, and thought, well, at least it's not Monday. Then it lunged. The first strike wasn't fast. It was precise, calculated, perfect. Jake barely rolled out of the way, feeling the force of the blow pass close enough to singe the air around him. His hangover fog made him slower, but instinct, honed over years of combat, kept him alive. He scrambled behind debris, yanking a piece of metal to use as cover. He fired his weapon, misjudging aim and distance, but the alien shifted gracefully, avoiding every shot. Each miss seemed to frustrate the alien, whose arrogance had assumed a human would panic or flee. Jake ducked another blow, grunting as his arm scraped against concrete. He cursed not just for himself, but for the absurdity of everything. This is ridiculous. I should be in bed. I should be dead, maybe, but nope. Nope, aliens say hello, and I'm their welcome committee. Perhaps it saw something in Jake that didn't fit its calculations. Perhaps humans were messier than expected, less predictable, harder to understand. Whatever it was, that moment was all Jake needed to stumble backward, retreating just far enough to survive another encounter. By the time the alien returned to its ship, Jake was panting, battered, and painfully aware of every sore muscle in his body. He leaned against a piece of rubble, trying to process what had just happened. He was alive. He had survived, somehow. And somewhere deep inside, beneath the headache, the nausea, and the humiliation, Jake felt a flicker of pride. If this was humanity's first impression on the galaxy, well, it might have been messy, it might have been ridiculous, but it was ours. Guess the universe isn't dead yet, he muttered, staggering to his feet. And neither am I, barely, but hey, one day at a time. He had no idea what tomorrow would bring, but for the first time that morning he felt ready, or at least as ready as a hungover Marine facing the universe's strongest warrior could be. And that was enough. The next morning, Jake woke up with the kind of headache that made him question the very concept of existence. His apartment felt smaller, darker, and somehow heavier, as if gravity itself had joined forces with his hangover to punish him. He groaned, rolled over, and squinted at the sunlight streaming through the blinds. The previous day's events replayed in his mind like a bad dream. Aliens, strongest warrior in the galaxy, and him, somehow alive, somehow still standing. Somehow still grumbling about everything. He sat up, holding his head, and muttered, "All right, universe, I get it. I'm your punching bag, noted. Status, I'm alive, I think, but my head wants to explode and I smell like yesterday's mistakes. Other than that, excellent. We need you to engage again, study it, report back, and if possible, survive." He was still groggy, but the adrenaline of necessity had begun to mix with the lingering fog of his hangover. The scientists had been running scans overnight. Their conclusion was simple, terrifying, and oddly encouraging. The alien warrior was incredibly strong, incredibly fast, and nearly impossible to predict, but it was also highly logical. It relied on patterns, on calculations, on predictability, and humans, Jake learned, were the exact opposite. "Use your chaos," one scientist told him, eyes wide with excitement. "You don't have to win conventionally, you just have to survive, confuse it, frustrate it. That's enough for now." "Got it." "All right," he muttered to himself. "Let's see if logic can handle a human hangover." Its sheer size made the ground tremble, and its armor gleamed in the sunlight, reflecting light in strange, almost hypnotic patterns. Jake ducked instinctively as it swung an arm in a test strike. The air itself seemed to hiss past him. He stumbled over a piece of rubble, landing on his hands and knees, and muttered, "Yep, totally normal, just dodging alien death." Daily routine. He ran behind a pile of crates, panting, his head pounding. He realized something important. The alien expected humans to act in predictable ways. Charge, retreat, attack, hide, simple patterns. But humans were messy. Humans were unpredictable. Humans were chaotic. He grinned through the haze of pain. "Messy is my middle name," he muttered, even though it was. The alien advanced again, swinging its massive arm in a wide arc. Jake dodged, ducked, and rolled, using every scrap of debris as cover. He stumbled over a broken barrel, sending it crashing into a stack of crates. Sparks flew. The alien hesitated, scanning the chaotic scene. For a creature built on logic, this made little sense. Jake took a deep breath, ignoring the pounding in his head. Improvisation was key. He ran toward a pile of old shipping containers, knocking them over in a way that created a maze. The alien followed, its movements precise but hindered by the confusion. He peeked out from behind a container and fired a shot, again, mostly for effect. The bullet ricocheted off metal, striking a control panel and causing a small explosion. Flames shot up, smoke filled the air, and the alien paused, clearly recalculating. Jake laughed, a hoarse, shaky sound. You didn't see that coming, did you? He stumbled backward into a stack of crates, nearly toppling over, but managed to grab a loose chain hanging from above. He swung it, knocking over more crates. The resulting chaos forced the alien to step carefully, slowing it down ever so slightly. Not bad, Jake muttered to himself. I might survive this yet. The alien was incredible, yes, but it expected rational behavior. It expected hesitation. It expected predictable defense. What it didn't expect was sheer human stubbornness. Every time Jake made a mistake, tripped, fell, cursed, it inadvertently created new opportunities. He ducked behind a broken wall as the alien swung again, narrowly avoiding a crushing blow. His knees scraped against concrete, his hands burned from gripping jagged metal, and sweat mixed with blood on his forehead. Still, he kept moving, kept improvising, kept surviving. At one point, Jake ran into a small, abandoned warehouse. Inside, he found piles of crates, metal pipes, and discarded machinery. He quickly set up makeshift traps, loose chains, hanging barrels, and a tangle of wires connected to an old generator. It wasn't a plan. It was chaos engineered as strategy. The alien entered, scanning the room. Jake held his breath, hoping the trap would do something. As the alien stepped forward, a hanging barrel fell from above, hitting the floor with a deafening crash. Sparks flew, wires sparked, and a small explosion sent the alien stumbling slightly. Jake ducked, laughing through the pain. And that, my friend, is what humans call improvisation. Jake used the pause to retreat further, ducking behind crates, sliding under beams, and using every ounce of his awareness to stay just out of reach. For hours, the battle continued like this, a dance of chaos versus precision. Jake's hangover slowed him, made him clumsy, and yet somehow it also made him unpredictable. He misjudged distances, stumbled over debris, and cursed endlessly, but every mistake created new challenges for the alien warrior. At one point, he tripped over a loose cable, sending a crate crashing into a pile of scrap metal. Sparks flew. The alien moved to block it but miscalculated slightly, and Jake took the opportunity to strike a control panel with a metal rod. The panel sparked, machines groaned, and smoke filled the room. The alien froze, scanning the environment. Jake leaned against a wall, breathing heavily, sweat and blood streaking his face. He laughed shakily. Messy humans, that's us. Unpredictable, stubborn, annoying, and apparently alive. It observed, it calculated. It realized that no matter how strong, fast, or precise it was, this human continued to survive against all odds. For Jake, survival wasn't about strength or skill anymore. It was about endurance, instinct, and chaos. He had no strategy, no clear plan, no heroic speech. He simply moved, improvised, and endured. And for the first time that day, he felt a strange sense of clarity through the fog of his hangover. Humans were dangerous not because they were perfect, but because they refused to give up. The alien finally retreated, stepping back toward the exit of the warehouse. Its glowing eyes followed Jake, and for a moment there was a strange respect in its gaze, an acknowledgement that humans were not as predictable as it had assumed. Jake slumped against a wall, wiping sweat and blood from his forehead. His chest heaved, his legs trembled, and his head throbbed in time with the chaotic rhythm of the city outside. He had survived. Against a being that could have ended him with one strike, he had survived. He chuckled, weak and breathless. And they say hangovers are useless, he muttered. Guess not. Jake raised his hand in a weak wave. You're alive, General Harlan said, his expression a mix of relief and disbelief. How? Jake nodded absently, half listening, half wishing he could just collapse on a couch somewhere. As night fell, Jake realized something important. This was only the beginning. The alien warrior would return, stronger, smarter, more prepared. And he would have to face it again. But now he knew something the alien didn't. Humans were unpredictable. Humans endured. Humans survived. And if humans could survive against the galaxy's strongest warrior once, they could do it again. Jake looked up at the dark sky, where the alien ship hovered like a silent storm, and muttered, bring it on. But first, maybe a drink. Or 5. The morning after his first encounter with the alien warrior, Jake Mallory woke up to a world that felt both heavier and stranger than usual. His body ached in places he didn't know existed. His head throbbed like a jackhammer, and yet a strange spark of determination burned inside him. The battle from the day before was still vivid in his memory. The staggering size of the alien, the hum of its energy, the way it moved with precision and power that seemed impossible for any living being. And yet, against all odds, he had survived. By the time he had forced himself to his feet, brushed his teeth with grim determination, and swallowed a weak coffee that barely helped his throbbing brain. He was summoned once again to the emergency command center. The world, it seemed, did not pause for hangovers. Inside the center, chaos was humming at full speed. Scientists and military officials crowded around glowing screens, their faces tight with concern and exhaustion. Holographic maps displayed the alien ship's position, movement, and power signatures. Every detail painted a picture of a being far superior to any human in strength, speed, or strategy. "Mallory," General Harlan barked as Jake entered, his eyes narrowed. "You survived the first encounter. Congratulations. Now we need to understand it, how it thinks, how it moves, how it fights. And yes, you will be our point man again. Learn its weaknesses. You're our only live human variable right now. If you die, we lose an opportunity to understand it. Survive, and you give us a chance." Patterns emerged, subtle but consistent. The warrior was incredibly precise. Every strike followed calculated trajectories. Every dodge predicted human reactions except for Jake's unpredictable behavior. That chaos, that stubborn refusal to follow logic, had frustrated the alien enough to give him a window to escape. "Your unpredictability is the key," one scientist explained, pacing in front of Jake. "Humans are chaotic, irrational, emotional. It relies on patterns, on assumptions. You break those assumptions. You survive because you are illogical." "Got it." The alien was already there, standing still as if waiting, its glowing green eyes scanning the horizon. Its armor gleamed in the harsh sunlight, reflecting an intensity that made Jake squint. He took a deep breath and muttered under his breath, "Here we go again. Let's see if messy humans can outsmart perfection." The alien lunged, swinging its massive arm, sending a shockwave through the ground that made Jake stumble backward. He barely rolled out of the way, feeling the air brush against his face with the force of a freight train. He scrambled for cover behind a rusted shipping container, heart racing, sweat mixing with dirt on his face. He glanced around quickly, looking for anything he could use. Pieces of metal, loose cables, barrels, anything that could be turned into an obstacle. His hangover still made his movements clumsy, but it also made him unpredictable. The alien did not expect hesitation, or flailing, or desperate improvisation. Jake grabbed a metal pipe and swung it blindly at the alien, not aiming to hit, but to distract. The alien shifted gracefully, deflecting the strike, but the movement caused nearby debris to scatter. Sparks flew as metal hit metal, and a pile of crates toppled, blocking part of the warrior's path. "Messy humans," Jake muttered through gritted teeth. "That's us. Just survive, just survive." It lunged again, faster this time, its massive hand aimed to crush him. Jake dove to the side, rolling across the floor, and grabbed a chain hanging from above. He yanked it, sending a heavy barrel swinging toward the alien. It dodged just in time, but the noise, the chaos, the unpredictability, each element slowed it down. For the first time, Jake realized something important. The alien was learning. It was adapting, analyzing, but it was still vulnerable to randomness, to unpredictability. Humans were messy, yes, but that messiness created openings the alien could not calculate. He continued moving through the abandoned warehouses, using every scrap of cover, every piece of debris, every clumsy maneuver to create confusion. Sparks flew, barrels crashed, wires sparked, and smoke filled the air. The alien moved with incredible precision, but each new obstacle forced it to pause, to recalculate. Jake ducked behind a wall, catching his breath. His arms trembled, his legs ached, and his chest burned. But he couldn't stop. Not now, not when he had survived this long. He peeked around the corner and spotted an old generator. An idea formed, fueled by desperation and adrenaline. He ran toward it, ducking under swinging debris, and yanked a thick cable connected to it. Sparks shot out, hitting a pile of barrels stacked precariously nearby. The barrels toppled, creating a cascading effect. One barrel struck the alien, forcing it to step back, momentarily off balance. Jake didn't wait. He ducked and rolled, landing behind another stack of crates. "Not bad," he muttered, "for a guy who feels like death." It began to anticipate Jake's improvisations, striking preemptively, adjusting angles, testing reactions. Each clash pushed Jake further, forcing him to think faster, move smarter, and survive purely on instinct. Hours passed. The sun shifted, casting long shadows across the battlefield. Jake's body was covered in cuts and bruises, his uniform torn in multiple places. He was bleeding, bruised, and exhausted beyond measure, but he kept moving. Every mistake, every slip, every stumble, each created an opportunity, a tiny window the alien did not expect. At one point, he ran into a narrow alleyway. The alien followed, but its size made movement difficult in the confined space. Jake noticed a pile of scrap metal above, dangling precariously. With a swift kick, he triggered it, sending a cascade of sharp metal down. The alien leaped back, narrowly avoiding the falling debris, and for a moment it paused. Jake grinned despite his fatigue. See, chaos works. Chaos is brilliant. Humans are brilliant. Messy, clumsy, hangover-filled, but brilliant. And more than that, he had forced the alien to adapt, to hesitate, to consider possibilities it had never accounted for. Jake leaned against a wall, panting heavily, blood and sweat streaking his face. His chest heaved, and his legs threatened to give out beneath him, but he felt a strange sense of pride. This was not a victory, not yet, but it was a statement. Humans were unpredictable, messy, and resilient, and that was something the alien could not easily calculate. As night fell, the alien finally retreated, stepping back into the shadows. Its glowing eyes followed Jake, a silent acknowledgement of respect, or perhaps curiosity. For the first time, Jake realized something. The alien did not underestimate humans anymore. It understood that survival was not just about strength or speed. It was about endurance, adaptability, and unpredictability, the very essence of humanity. Jake collapsed onto a pile of crates, breathing heavily. He had survived again against the galaxy's strongest warrior, against impossible odds, against logic itself. And somewhere deep inside, beneath the pain and exhaustion, he felt a spark of hope. Humans were messy. Humans were flawed. Humans were stubborn, chaotic, and sometimes ridiculously lucky. But that was exactly what made them dangerous. That was exactly what made them capable of surviving when the odds were impossibly against them. Jake closed his eyes for a brief moment, letting the pain wash over him. Tomorrow, he knew, would bring another encounter, another test, another chance to prove that humans, no matter how flawed or tired or hungover, could endure. And for now, that was enough. The next morning, Jake woke with a grim sense of determination. His hangover was mostly gone, replaced by a soreness that reminded him every movement came at a cost. Every bruise, every scrape, every lingering ache was a badge of survival. The alien warrior had retreated the night before, but Jake knew it would not stay away for long. At the emergency command center, scientists and military officials crowded around holographic displays, analyzing every motion of the alien from the previous encounters. Jake entered, still rubbing his sore shoulder. "Morning," he muttered. "Ready for round 3, I guess. We need to understand its weaknesses, exploit its logic, and hit it where it doesn't expect. Mostly my sanity. So basically, I just have to be myself. Messy, clumsy, stubborn, unpredictable. Got it. Easy." By midday, Jake was on the field again, surveying a desolate industrial zone that had become the arena for humanity's greatest gamble. Piles of scrap metal, old machinery, and abandoned warehouses created a maze-like battlefield. Sparks flew from exposed wires, and the air was thick with dust and tension. "Remember," one scientist reminded him, "your unpredictability is your greatest weapon. Make mistakes, move randomly, survive, confuse it." Its armor shimmered with iridescent light, and its eyes glowed with calculated focus. Every step it took sent vibrations through the ground. Jake felt his chest tighten, a mix of fear and excitement coursing through him. He darted behind a pile of crates as the alien swung a massive arm in a calculated strike. Sparks flew as metal clashed, and Jake rolled to the side, narrowly avoiding the blow. His team moved strategically, triggering small explosions, swinging chains, and tossing debris to distract the alien. Jake's advantage was simple: chaos. Every mistake he made, every stumble, every improvised move created openings. The alien, powerful as it was, struggled to adapt to the unpredictability of human behavior. At one point, Jake stumbled over a loose cable, sending a crate crashing into a pile of scrap metal. Sparks shot everywhere, and the alien had to leap back to avoid being struck. Jake ducked under a swinging metal beam, muttering, "See, chaos works. Humans are brilliant." He darted across the battlefield, leading the creature into a narrow alley where it could not fully maneuver. He triggered a makeshift trap, a barrel filled with scrap metal connected to a pulley system, which struck the alien and forced it to step back again. The team cheered quietly from behind cover. Jake grinned through the pain and exhaustion. "This is ridiculous," he muttered. "And somehow working." At one point, the alien pinned Jake against a wall with a crushing blow. Jake's back hit the concrete with a sharp crack, and he grunted in pain. But as the alien raised its arm for the finishing strike, Jake kicked a loose pipe toward a dangling chain. The chain swung down, striking the alien's armor and causing a minor disruption in its rhythm. Jake seized the moment, rolling to the side and slamming a metal rod into a nearby control panel, causing sparks and smoke to explode across the battlefield. The alien staggered, forced to step back to reassess. Jake panted heavily, blood mixing with sweat on his face. His body was battered, bruised, and exhausted, but his mind was sharp. He understood the key to survival now. Keep moving, keep improvising, keep forcing the alien to adapt to human chaos. As night fell, the alien finally paused, retreating to the center of the battlefield. Its glowing eyes followed Jake, an unspoken acknowledgement that this human was different from any foe it had ever faced. It had underestimated humans before, expecting fear and submission. Now it realized that humans were dangerous because they were unpredictable, creative, and resilient. Jake leaned against a wall, catching his breath. His team approached cautiously, their faces a mix of relief and awe. "You did it," one soldier said. "You kept it off balance, you survived." "That's what counts." It did not attack further, at least for now. Instead, it observed, analyzed, and seemed almost curious. Jake realized something important. This was more than survival. This was a demonstration of human ingenuity. Humans were messy, stubborn, and imperfect, but those very traits made them formidable. The alien had power, precision, and strength, but it lacked creativity and adaptability, the traits that humans wielded naturally, even under the worst circumstances. As the night deepened, Jake and his team began planning their next moves. They reinforced traps, improvised new weapons, and prepared for the alien's inevitable return. Each team member contributed, inspired by Jake's leadership and resilience. Humans had something the alien could not predict: unity, creativity, and stubborn endurance. Jake sat on a pile of crates, exhausted but alert. His mind replayed the battle over and over, analyzing every move, every misstep, every opportunity. He understood now that survival was not about brute strength or speed. It was about thinking, improvising, and refusing to give up, no matter how impossible the odds. He looked up at the sky, where the alien ship hovered silently, and muttered, "Bring it on, we're ready." Or at least, as ready as we'll ever be. The alien had underestimated humans once. It would not underestimate them again. But humans had a weapon the alien could never fully understand: the unpredictability of the human spirit. Jake grinned, bleeding, bruised, and utterly exhausted. "We may be messy," he muttered. "We may be clumsy, we may stumble, fall, and curse like fools, but we survive. And that's what counts." And Jake Mallory, hungover, battered, and stubborn as ever, would lead the charge. The night was quiet, almost too quiet. Jake Mallory sat alone on a pile of rubble, staring at the faint green glow of the alien ship hovering in the distance. His body ached from bruises, cuts, and exhaustion, but his mind was sharper than it had been in days. Every move, every stumble, every moment of improvisation had led to this. The alien warrior had learned, adapted, and returned stronger and more cautious, but so had humans. Jake rubbed his temples, wincing at the sharp sting. "All right," he muttered to himself. "Time to show you what humans really can do. No more running, no more lucky rolls. Let's see if stubbornness beats logic." Jake walked in, limping slightly, his uniform torn and dirty. "Morning, heroes," he said dryly. "Looks like the universe wants another round, ready to survive in style. It won't kill it, but it can disrupt its armor temporarily. Use it wisely." Sparks shot from exposed wires, barrels teetered precariously, and debris created unpredictable paths. Humans had turned chaos into a weapon. From the shadows, the alien warrior emerged. Its armor glowed brighter, eyes fixed on Jake. It had analyzed the previous encounters and adapted its approach, moving cautiously, striking with calculated precision. This was no longer an opponent that underestimated humans. This was a warrior fully aware of the chaos it had faced before. Jake's pulse quickened. He surveyed the battlefield, noting every trap, every obstacle, every angle he could use. He wasn't perfect. He was still bruised, bleeding, and exhausted, but he had learned from every previous encounter. The alien lunged first, swinging its massive arm. Jake dove to the side, rolling under a hanging beam. Sparks flew as metal struck metal. He scrambled to his feet and fired the pulse rifle. A beam of blue energy struck the alien's armor, creating a crackling disruption. The alien staggered slightly, surprised by the unexpected effect. Jake grinned, adrenaline surging. "Now we're cooking," he muttered. He darted toward a stack of barrels rigged with chains, pulling a lever that sent them swinging into the alien. The creature dodged, but the barrels knocked over crates, creating a cascading effect of chaos. The alien recovered quickly, striking with speed and precision, but Jake anticipated its patterns this time. He led it through narrow alleys, forcing it to slow down, using traps, improvised weapons, and environmental hazards to maintain an advantage. Every move was risky, but every risk was calculated in chaos. At one point, the alien pinned Jake against a wall. Its glowing eyes bore into his, analyzing, calculating. Jake's breath was ragged and pain shot through his shoulder, but he didn't panic. He kicked a loose pipe toward a dangling chain, triggering a trap that sent a heavy barrel crashing into the alien's legs. The creature staggered, giving Jake the moment he needed to roll out of harm's way. He didn't just survive. He fought smart, unpredictable, and human. Each misstep, each stumble, each haphazard movement forced the alien to adapt continually. It struck faster, moved smarter, and yet every new human improvisation created openings. Chaos became strategy, unpredictability became a weapon, and endurance became power. Hours passed in a blur of movement, sparks, smoke, and debris. Jake's team guided him from the sidelines, providing support and triggering additional traps. Improvised projectiles, wires, and barrels created confusion, slowing the aliens' attacks. The battlefield became a testament to human ingenuity, messy, clumsy, chaotic, and brilliant. Jake pressed forward, forcing the alien into a narrow corridor lined with crates, wires, and metal scraps. He triggered a final trap, a generator connected to hanging barrels and explosive debris. Sparks shot through the air as the trap went off, sending metal and debris flying. The alien was momentarily disoriented, caught in the chaos it could not fully calculate. Jake lunged forward, using a steel rod to strike the alien's armor at its weakest point. The pulse rifle fired again, creating a disruption in the alien's energy shields. For the first time, the creature stumbled off balance and forced to retreat. Jake's heart pounded. Sweat, blood, and exhaustion mixed on his face, but he grinned through the pain. "Come on," he muttered. "One more, let's finish this dance." The alien followed, and at the perfect moment, Jake triggered the last improvised trap, a network of cables connected to explosives and debris. The explosion was deafening, metal flying everywhere, smoke and sparks filling the air. The alien was forced to leap back, narrowly avoiding a crushing blow. Jake pressed the pulse rifle to its armor one last time, firing a concentrated beam that disrupted its shields. The alien staggered, its glowing eyes studying him. For the first time, Jake saw hesitation. The alien took a step back, then another, finally halting. It raised its massive arm not in attack, but in recognition. Its eyes glowed with a strange light, almost respect. Jake's chest heaved, his body trembling from exhaustion, but a smile spread across his face. He had survived. He had fought smarter, harder, and messier than the galaxy's strongest warrior. And he had forced the creature to acknowledge humans not as weak prey, but as unpredictable, resilient beings capable of survival against impossible odds. The alien stepped back, turning toward its hovering ship. It paused, looking down at Jake one last time before retreating. Its glowing eyes met his, a silent promise that it had learned something new. Humans were dangerous, not because of brute strength, but because of ingenuity, unpredictability, and endurance. Jake collapsed onto the ground, leaning against a pile of crates. His body was battered, bruised, and exhausted, but his mind was clear. He had led humans to survive against the galaxy's most powerful warrior, and in doing so had proven the true strength of humanity. General Harlan and the team rushed in, their faces a mixture of relief and awe. "You did it," the general said. "You survived, you led us. You've proven what humans can do." Jake listened, half aware, half dreaming of a chair, a warm meal, and maybe a drink. But he felt pride in himself, his team, and humanity. The world would not forget this day. Humans had faced the galaxy's strongest warrior, and they had survived not through superior strength, not through perfect tactics, but through ingenuity, adaptability, and sheer stubbornness. Jake stood slowly, his body protesting every movement. He looked at the alien ship in the sky, now retreating into the distance. He raised a hand in a weak wave, muttering, "Guess the universe isn't dead yet, and neither am I." Jake took a deep breath, surveying the chaotic battlefield. Sparks flickered, smoke rose, and the night was alive with the remnants of their struggle. Every scar, every bruise, every mark of battle was proof of human resilience. proof that humans could endure, improvise, and prevail even when facing a seemingly unbeatable foe. He leaned back against a wall, smiling despite the pain. Tomorrow, the alien might return. The galaxy might bring new challenges. But humanity had proven its strength, not in perfection, but in chaos, in creativity, in unyielding spirit. Jake closed his eyes briefly, letting the weight of exhaustion wash over him. He had survived. He had fought. And he had shown that humans, messy, flawed, and stubborn, could stand against the strongest warrior the galaxy had ever known. As dawn approached, the alien ship disappeared beyond the horizon, leaving Jake and humanity victorious, for now. He took a deep breath, looking at the sky with a sense of wonder and determination. Humans, he muttered, smiling, we're messy, we're stubborn, and we're alive, and don't you forget it. Because they were alive, and nothing in the galaxy could take that away. Jake laughed softly to himself, leaning against a crate as the first light of morning touched the horizon. The hangover was long gone, replaced by exhaustion, pain, and the undeniable thrill of victory. And somewhere, high above in the stars, the alien warrior had learned something it would never forget. Humans, in all their messy, chaotic glory, were a force to be reckoned with.